What's up, everyone? I have the pleasure today sitting here with one of the greatest Terrans to ever grace the foreign scene. Before we get into that, though, I'm gonna not even let him say a word of greeting before we have a chance to thank Esports Heaven. Thank you, Esports Heaven, for coming together and helping these interviews happen. Guys, if you want timestamps for this interview, click on the link below. There's going to be a link to Esports Heaven if you're not already there, and check that out. There's going to be a little write-up too, and just give them the page view, man, because they're helping us out. Help them out too. Go check out those timestamps if you want. But the main attraction, uThermal. How are you doing today, man? How is the Netherlands weather?
I'm alright. Actually, today is way nicer because it's been really hot. So like, whenever I wanted to go to the gym, I had to wake up really early because I really didn't want to leave the house after 12. But today has been really nice. I didn't even have to turn on my air conditioning.
Oh man, living the
Feels
dream.
good, man. Yeah.
We've got like this crazy like heat wave thing happening in North America, and like where I am doesn't really get it so much, but where I am, once it hits like 25, that's suffering weather. So
It's
feels bad.
25.
25 is hot. Isn't 25 hot for you?
I mean, it is. But were you in Austin? Actually,
No, I would
it was
melt.
like 41 or something.
I would die. I wouldn't be able to do
Yeah.
it. How do people even live in that? Actually, really quick, you got a little sick down in Austin, right? You had
Yeah.
oh, what did you have?
Pneumonia.
Yeah, how did that happen in such hot temperatures?
I
If
don't
you care
know.
to talk about
I'm not a doctor.
it. Okay,
I mean,
fair
I
enough.
assume I just got the bacteria from somewhere, like all the flying back and forth.
Very brutal. Well,
Like, I don't think you get a pneumonia because it's cold.
I've always just associated that to be the
I
case.
mean,
Maybe I have no idea.
you don't get a cold because it's cold either.
Well, that's a fact. I'll give you that
Yeah.
one. Maybe you could be a doctor. Maybe that's the next step.
Follow TLO's footsteps.
Yeah. So we're gonna get into this. We're gonna start with some nice fluffy stuff to preserve the history of uThermal. How did you get into video games?
Well, my father and my brother are both into games. Like, they both work in IT now as well. Like, I'm definitely not an IT person. I don't know anything about computers. But my father and my brother both were, so we played games together. I remember playing a chess game with my father and brother. I think that was one of the first games I played. It was called Kung Fu Chess, where you can basically move all the pieces at once with a delay. And my father was like the lowest rank possible, and me and my brother were actually kind of good. And then we played StarCraft 1 a little bit. I never played online really, just a little bit, but I played against the computer with my brother as well. I know slowly we just kept playing, I guess. My brother still plays a lot of games too. I visit his place sometimes to play some games, so I guess it's in the family.
Nice, nice wholesome family entry story, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
So from just playing games with the fam, playing Kung Fu chess, how did you find out about pro gaming and then StarCraft 2 esports?
Well, my brother bought StarCraft 2 for me actually. Like it was a gift from him. Else I probably would have never played this game. I came back from summer vacation one day and the game was on my desk and I was like, shit, because it's as a I don't know what I was, like 15 or 14 or something. It's pretty expensive, it was like 60 euros. So I was like, oh, that's quality. So I played it, and usually I played 4v4 at the start a lot with my brother as well. But I was always the kind of guy to go for a 1v1. Even the game I mentioned earlier, Kung Fu Chess, I was like 8 years old or something. But even back then, I really preferred to play 1v1 because I wanted to, I don't know, prove my skill in that way. So I just started playing 1v1 and I got diamond really fast. And then one day, a friend I made online, he told me about TeamLiquid.net. And like I had no idea about any things. Like I would watch streams sometimes or whatever, but I had no idea about the community, right? So if you don't know about StarCraft and you open Team Liquid, you don't know what it's all about, right? You're like, what are these people doing here? There's competitions, what? And when I went to the site, the first thing I saw was the announcement of TSL 3, and I clicked on the link and I saw like prize pool was like 30 something K, and the first place was like 10K, and I was like, holy shit. Because you know, if you're like an adult, 10K is like, it's a really good prize, but it's not, you know, the most money you've ever heard of, right? But if you're 15, 10K is like, that's what your friends make in like 2 years working at the supermarket, you know. So it sounded like an insane price to me, and that's when I actually signed up for that tournament. That was one of the first things I played, and that's actually where I found out about like proper esports. I mean, before that, I played some of the random cups, like craft cups for $10 and stuff. But I felt that was like the limit, you know. Like I actually didn't know anything about esports until I saw TSL 3. I remember my early friends telling me about GSL, and they said it was like Fruit Dealer against Rainbow or something, and I just responded like, "Who?" And they were like, "Oh, nice joke, man," or whatever. Like they thought I was trolling them, you know, but I legit had no idea. And also, when I went to my first Dutch LAN, they said people like Grubby and Sushi and Hearthstone were probably gonna win, and I was like, who are those guys? And they made fun of me. They were like, this is such a shit joke. Come on, man. But I actually had no idea who any of the people were.
That's like a real big leap there to go from $10 online cups to like, oh wow, you can make 10K from
Yeah,
winning one of
yeah,
these. Wow, that must
yeah.
have been some insane culture shock to kind of come into so unknowledgeable and then just dive on into, huh?
Yeah. Because at the time I was playing video games since I was young, as I said, and I was having a great time playing, but that was it, you know. But actually, when I saw that thread, I remember actually thinking I could actually like live off of this. Like it was a dream, and it was shock, and it was weird all at the same time.
So you've kind of had like a twisting turning path with your username. Actually, I know that your original Twitch channel was like Avalon, I think, something like that, and
Yeah,
the U of uThermal, isn't that just like an old clan tag that's kind of just stuck around? Does it ever bother
yeah,
you that
yeah.
it's like incorporated itself into the like Thermi brand?
No. I think it has a good ring to it, you know. Like I think just thermal is like it's kind of boring, you know. It's just thermal, but you thermal is like, you know, that's the man. Like I actually think it sounds good, and even though nowadays, the name just sticks. Like at one point, you don't even think about the name anymore, you know. Like I don't think Showtime spends a second in his week thinking about that his name is Showtime. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I don't know. It's just the identity, you know. So I don't really think about it anymore. But I remember someone asked me this question like 5 years ago, and I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, actually, the U really makes the name. Now I think about it.
I wonder I wonder how anybody from that old clan feels. You're like one of the biggest stars of SC2, championship title
Yeah,
to your name. That must feel kind of cool for the old clan members, I bet.
yeah. Well, I like one of them is one of my best friends. Um, so of course I know him, but actually I don't speak to any of the others anymore. I don't know if they watch StarCraft or anything. But of course, I know my best friend, to call him like that is very proud. But I don't know about the others. I don't even know if my friend, his name is Danny. I don't even know if he remembers that he was in the clan. I mean, it was like 7 years ago. After all, you know. For him, I'm probably just uThermal as well. Actually, I wonder if he remembers. I should ask him.
Oh man, I'd remember. I talk with my friends sometimes. I don't know if this was a thing for Europe, but like in NA when you were running around on Xbox Live and Call of Duty and on Halo and stuff like that, you'd get these like friend requests from people if you did really well, and they'd be like, "Oh man, you
Yeah.
should join my clan." And you like, there are a bunch of people, so many people who joined Optic and FaZe Clan when they were just like a thing, and now for all us North American kids,
Yeah.
it's like oh yeah, I was in FaZe Clan way back.
I was one of them.
Oh man, days gone by.
Yeah.
So you're a player who really started to hit your stride in SC2 after the peak of the scene. It was kind of in 2013, 2014, where you really started to become like a known entity of Terran foreign supremacy. I think that's such an interesting time for players to come up in the community and in StarCraft 2. What was it like for you during this time, especially because you didn't really know anything about esports in StarCraft until very kind of late in the timeline?
I mean, I was watching when StarCraft 2 was at its peak and playing as well. But as an up and coming player, especially at that time, I really didn't care about the viewership. Like I think it's really overstated. Like it's not like I checked Team Liquid every day and I was like, it was only 60K today. I think I should play something else. Like I actually like the thing is like the community kind of drilled that into everyone. Like the viewership is high, the viewership is low, but like until 2015 or maybe 2014, I don't think I even looked at the viewership of a stream once. Like I honestly don't remember how many viewers streams used to have. I remember one time I was really impressed with Wydra because he had like 11K viewers on his personal stream, and I remember him sitting there and he was talking on his phone to his wife or something while playing the game. I remember that specifically, but like besides that, I have absolutely no clue how many viewers a stream used to have. So like I don't think it made a difference really in what time I came up because you know it's not like I really paid attention to the state of the scene in that way. To me, 2014 was just like 2012, or for me it was all the same. Really.
I think that's interesting because it seems, to me at least, it seems like a lot of the players who left StarCraft during this period of time for greener pastures, viewership was really important, and then also the number of tournaments was really important too, I think. But as an up and comer, I hadn't really considered this. For you, it was all, a green pasture of potential, right? Because you didn't have that kind of
Yeah,
pre-established base that you were losing. You were just gaining at that point, wasn't it? Is that the case?
yeah, pretty much. Like, of course, there's a bit of regret of not being good earlier or something because, of course, the salaries and stuff were more lucrative, but yeah, like, and also I have to admit that I think most of the people that said it, I don't think that's really the main reason for people to quit. Like I don't feel like anyone who is on an upward spiral would quit because of the viewership. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the people that quit probably in a bad period, they were losing or they had no motivation for the game, no enjoyment, whatever, and then they combined with the viewership going down, are like, well, I'll just quit. But I don't think anyone would look like. Of course, if WCS gets like 75 viewers on a Sunday, then it's like, well. But like, I don't think anyone looks like, it's only 25K today. I won the tournament, but the viewers were only 25K. I think I'm out of here. Like, I don't think anyone does that. So yeah, like in the end, it's not that important for the players. I think it's a little factor in the back of the mind of everyone, I'm sure, but yeah.
So in 2016 at IEM Shanghai, you became the first foreign Terran to win a championship title since 2012. I believe that's the case. I hope that's correct.
Yeah.
What was that experience like, and what did it mean to you to be crowned a champion?
Um, well, it changed a bit over time because back then, like in that specific moment, I just remember being really happy, and it was mostly because everyone's StarCraft career is really frustrating. Like of course there's the wonder kids that just go up and up and up, but mine was like it was very slow and steady improvement. So like as I said, I started playing in like 2010 and I learned esports in 2011. So 5 years after my first LAN is when I won my first like world championship, right? And that's a long time. And there's never a guarantee you're gonna win one. So my path was I was so frustrated on many days. I thought about quitting a lot of times, like because you always lose in the end, unless you're the champion. So basically, you lose like 90% of the time, or 97 or something. Like it's very high. So it's a path full of frustration. And then, the tournament before IAM was one of my worst tournaments ever. And I remember tweeting like, I apologized for my level of play because it wasn't even really pro level. Like I got owned by Lilicanin, then I lost in the first round of the bracket to Hydra, I believe, and where I played very poor. And then after that, I became world champion, right? So it really felt like all those years of frustrations and rough moments all came together, and they got blown away just like that by that one big victory. So yeah, for me, it's a really beautiful moment, especially in that time. But now I view it more as my proudest achievement, mostly because I am a Terran player. So that's how I changed views, because at the time, because I attended NSL right after that. I don't know if you remember that. There was another 30K tournament in China, like literally right after. I didn't even have time to celebrate. Like I won. I went to the hotel. I packed my stuff because I was playing the next day in the other tournament in Shanghai, which was like an hour down the road or something. And even there, I played really well in the tournament after as well. So it kind of felt like, but by now I kind of expected to have won like 4 or 5 championships, because I was playing so well. But since my performance went down, and I didn't reach another final since then, right now I view it as like my crowning achievement or something like that. Like it's my proudest achievement to be the only foreign Terran to win something in 6 years at this point. So it doesn't feel that magical to me anymore, as in like just happiness. But for me, it's mostly just I ordered it. For me, that's my proudest achievement. So if I retire or whatever, then I will take that one with me, and I'll make sure to take the trophy, which is in here somewhere.
Hell yeah!
So it changed a little bit in my perspective.
I've been admiring your little setup back there. Is there a chance that you can like tilt the webcam and we can get a shot of that maybe?
This is the IM trophy.
Nice. Very nice. You got all your Dutch StarCraft League collection too.
Yeah.
Very cool. The Dutch scene is. I was going to talk about this later, but I'm keep looking at that nice Dutch StarCraft League trophy over your shoulder. The Dutch scene is so interesting. We got a fan question about this too. I'll shut you out when we come there, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like what is about the Netherlands that seems to breed so many StarCraft RTS? I mean, you got Rotterdam, Hearthstone, Optimus, yourself. It seems like there's such a thriving scene there compared to so many other places in the world. What kind of makes that come to pass?
I don't really know, to be honest. I think it just like you need to be lucky at the start, and then it just keeps rolling, because we needed to be lucky to have Grubby and Harston and me and Red and people like that, because if you are born in a country that doesn't have a single star of your game, it can be kind of demotivating, I think. So, but in the Dutch scene right now, we always have like high level pros. So I know our local community, it actually motivates them. Like I have friends, Dutch friends, that always watch my stream and ask for my replays and things like that. And I think if I wouldn't be here, for example, I'm not saying that I'm like the magical stone of the Dutch scene or something like that. But if I wasn't here, it probably would be the case that the other Terran players or even other players would be less motivated to play, right? And also I don't know that much about local lands in other countries, but we have had a lot of local lands, especially in the past, which we would have full attendance for. Because we even had, actually, I don't know if you know about all the Dutch players, but we had a lot of like high grandmaster players. We also had Shaq, for example, who was in mouse sports, and we had Poyo at the start and Servant, who were two high GM Dutch Terrans. And sometimes our lands would actually be like I would be a pro player in WCS and I would get like sixth or something in a local Dutch land. Like we actually had a lot of good players, and we were all really competitive, and we had I would say 3 teams or 4 teams that actually rivaled with each other. So we always wanted to beat each other. For example, as you know, I came from AT Gaming, and there was another team called Mouse Control or Easy Visualize, and of course we always wanted to beat the others, right? So I think a mixture of like having idols to look up to and having good rivalries in the local scene as well as actual tournaments, I think is probably the recipe for us having a good scene.
Nice. I'm very jealous. I'm in an island province in Canada, and it's very possible that I'm the only StarCraft player on the island. Uh, there was a Grandmaster Terran back in like 2011, I think, but not anymore. There's not.
What was his name?
Kai Hall.
Oh, okay.
He was on It's Gosu, actually. I think it was. I don't know if he was on
Oh,
It's Gosu
okay.
proper or if he was a part of like the academy team or what, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was just when I was like, I think that was before I was starting to pay attention to StarCraft and esports. Actually, I don't even know, but yeah, no, I'm always super jealous of anywhere that has that nice thriving local community.
I think
You
I beat Isgosu once in the clan war.
Oh really? Maybe you beat him.
I think I won like 3 PvPs or something like that. And yeah, I just remember this clan war because it was in a really cool team league. At least for me as amateur, it was really cool. It was like the NASL team league or something like that. And we were playing qualifiers, and I was Protoss at the time actually. And we played against like, do you remember Wang Sin, the Korean Protoss?
Oh man, I super don't.
Anyway, he was a pretty decent Protoss, and I was just a random, and I remember beating him. And it was like 3 a.m. and I was with my parents, and I was talking so loud to my teammates because I was so happy, and my mom came in angrily while I was just snatching kill after kill.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's before I was even really paying attention. There's like a whole like 2 years there when StarCraft was peaking out where I didn't even know it was a thing. Feels bad, man.
Feels bad, man.
You mentioned there very briefly, and it's a good way to segue back to what I was going to talk about. AT Gaming was your mainstay, squeeze team for 3 years, I think it was, between 2013 and 2016. And then in 2016, you went through a really big transition. You left AT Gaming, and then you were picked up by Team Liquid. I remember Nazgul tweeted that Liquid was looking for like a new StarCraft 2 player, and then everyone who responded to that tweet, I think pretty much everyone, no matter who they said, they also mentioned your name. What was it like joining Team Liquid from AT Gaming and making that transition?
It was a bit scary at first, I have to say, because like at AT Gaming, I was the star, and everyone was Dutch, or not everyone. We had we had Elaser, for example. We had some international players, but the management and the community, everything was Dutch. And because I kind of brought their name to the big light, so to say, they would always stay up until no matter how late to watch for me and root for me, and I was like, the importance. And then going to Team Liquid, that role really changes, because when I joined, I was probably the best player on the team, but still it's really different because everyone in the team is really good, and I was just one of the, I don't know how many players Team Liquid has over all their games, but I was like one of the 50 or 100 stars, and you're joining this big business, coming from a local team. So it was very hard to I didn't know what to expect, how it would go. But at the same time, I was really happy that it was Team Liquid that stepped up with a big offer. because of course when I announced I was leaving AT Gaming after I won IAM, this is where the foreign Terran advantage comes in, because if you are a foreign Terran, that's good. Everyone will want you, right? So I got an offer from basically everyone, and there were two teams. They gave me really good offers, and I was happy to see that Team Liquid was one of the two best ones, because they're like the center of StarCraft. You know, like I told you back in 2011, I stumbled across TeamLiquid.net, and that's where it all started. And even now, like most of the communities on Team Liquid, I feel like pretty much everyone in the scene has Team Liquid open during their day or at some point in their day, and they are also known for giving great support to their players and being very well rounded in support and things like that. So for me, I was really happy to see that, because I felt like it was the best option. I didn't think I could get any better, but it was also a big step.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's refreshing to hear that you were kind of nervous too. I think that just makes sense, and it's also not something I think we hear a whole lot from players too. But making that leap, from, like you said, from the local team full of your Dutch compatriots, and then coming into the biggest esports organization, arguably the biggest team in the world, that has
Yeah,
to be, that's got to be so huge, and so much history there too. And I think it's cool that the community was kind of rooting for you too. Like I said, with the tweet and stuff like that. I thought that was super super cool, just to see.
yeah. It was really funny for me too, because there wasn't just the Nazgul tweet. There was also the post about me leaving AT. You know, so it wasn't at one side there was people guessing on Nazgul's tweet who was going to join the team, but on the other side there were posts about me leaving AT and everyone guessing what team I was going to go to. So so in the Nazgul tweet it was like I remember like half of them were Beyond and half of them were me, something like that. And then on the clan tweet, the team tweet, I'm pretty sure I read everything. I was gonna go to Acer or Expert or Red Bull. Like I'm pretty sure I was going everywhere. And then it's really funny because like you know like literally every team has been guessed, and then the people that get it right are gonna be like, told you, you know. But like every single team ever was in there. So yeah, it was really funny for me to observe. Actually, I enjoyed that a lot.
It's like throwing darts at a dartboard, but you just load up a big catapult worth of darts and just chuck it in the general direction. Look, oh look, I got a bullseye.
Bullseye.
Too good. In 2016, you made a post on your Facebook, and you said, "quote excuse me, quote, you don't really care about patches too much. You just try to play the game with what you have and see what you can do," end quote. Which is, I think, an interesting sentiment coming from you, because you've become kind of a spokesperson for the Terran players in terms of game balance and how Terran fares. What's your approach to balance patches and updates today?
I mean, it's still the same, honestly. I think people have a bit of a misunderstanding, because I think a lot of people think I'm very whiny in general about balance specifically. But if I am in a how to explain this properly? So I'm a person that gets angry very quickly when I lose. So after I lose, I will actually be a person to complain about balance, right? But if I am not playing StarCraft, I actually like balance. I don't care about it too much. You know, it's specifically just a way for me to let out the emotion. For example, I have my own Discord. There's a server. There's also a Terran Discord server, and I feel like most of the people just whine about balance to actually whine about balance without actually playing the game. You know, like they just watch and they're like, "Man, fucking Protoss or something," you know. And even when I play games on my stream, sometimes I play a game and I play like shit, you know, and I lose to a Protoss. I'm like, well, I played like shit, you know. But in my entire chat will still be full of like people complaining about balance, and that's something I don't really do. Like when I complain about balance, it's just when I'm angry or something because I just lost mostly. And I think I'm actually one of the more honest players when it comes to balance. Like if you would ask me what balance is like, and I think Terran is strong, I will actually tell you Terran is strong. But because people always whine in the community, if Terran is actually shit, and I would say, man, Terran is garbage, you know, then people will think you're whining. But like you can't actually say your race is bad without whining anymore. You know what I mean? For example, we got the Marauder buff, and before that patch, I actually thought Terran was complete shit. You know, like it was bad against Zerg and it was bad against Protoss. But you can't really voice that kind of opinion anymore because people just think you whine. They're like, "Oh man, just play the game," and I'm like, it's not like I care about that when I'm playing. I'm just like stating it like I'm watching games. I'm like, "Oh look, you know, Terran sucks." Like for example, right now, I think Protoss is the race that sucks. And I will tell you honestly, I think Zerg is still broken in both matchups actually. But I can tell you honestly, I think Terran is pretty good against Protoss. But to get back to the point, I think it's still kind of the same. I wish they would patch a bit more actively because I feel like they let things slip for a bit too long sometimes because they focus more on gameplay that they really don't like than balance specifically. For example, the Raven Bomb, which I know was ridiculous, right? It didn't make Terran broken. Like the win rates were completely fine. It wasn't good against Protoss. It was really dumb gameplay in TVT, and it was really stupid gameplay in late game TVZ. But it didn't make Terran broken. But it got nerfed really fast. But for example, Zerg has been doing really well in both matchups for about half a year now, and there has been no word on that. So I know it's very difficult for them because they want the game to be fun. Like everyone knows, a few Ravens killing everything is no bueno, right? But I think they could honestly focus a bit more on balance because I think it's more fair for all the people that put in their hours in the game to have really stupid Raven missiles than for Zerg players to get like an easy pass for so long. At least that's my opinion. So yeah, I guess my general stance on balance is that I don't really care, but I think they could do a better job when it comes to patching.
It seems to me that ever since the swarm hosts were the issue in the community, like you said, right? With the Raven missile and with swarm hosts, I remember too. Statistically, it's not that bad. It really isn't that big of a deal. But it seems like when a thing like that, or Broodlord Infestor is the other really big one too, or even Protoss Deathball, it seems like nowadays, whenever something like that comes up in the community eye, they're really quick to kill it as fast as possible, just for the optics of it all, right?
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Broodlord Infestor was not just a
yeah, okay,
a gameplay issue.
That's fair. Well, I don't know the statistics for that. I don't know if they're out there, but ooh, I don't want to see them.
Yeah. Actually, so just to give you a very fast Broodlord Infestor lesson, right, for the family. Uh, so basically, you couldn't win against it. Like there was actually no chance you could win. Like if they didn't mess up, you couldn't. Like Zergs would actually win 2 against 8 base games frequently in that time, right? So Protoss had a 50% win rate against Zerg, and every single PVZ was a Protoss doing an all-in, and it would work, and if it didn't work, they would lose. Like there were actually no games where the Protoss would win in the late game. And for Terran, it was even worse against Zerg because like it was the same in the late game. You couldn't win, like you actually had no chance. But like it's not like we had good all-ins at the time. Like you could 2-racks and you could try. Like we didn't even have hellbats at the time, you know. Like there was actually no all-in we could actually do. So, and then on top of the really big imbalance, is that it was the most boring gameplay ever. Like every single game was like they're just sitting there because they know if they move out, they're giving you a chance. Like it was the worst thing ever. And then every single tournament final was a ZVZ where they either kill each other in 4 minutes with 10 pull bane or just sit there. And then like there's actually been games where the broodlings are just shooting each other for like it was actually so insane. I'm really glad that we're past this stage.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I wouldn't mind getting the swarm host back. Yeah, no, I think the game's in a pretty good place. I mean, I think so at least. Um, bringing it back. We can talk about some more balanced stuff, I guess, later. But you attended the Unity Team House in Korea in February. What
Yeah.
was that experience like, and how much of a difference did it make for your gameplay?
So about the experience, I think it was very nice for me because I'm like first of all I really wanted to go to Korea, right? So when I started playing, they were actually two of my goals to win a big championship and to go to Korea, right? So I achieved the first one at IEM and then I went to Korea and surprisingly late for most people. Most people assumed I was there, but I went there earlier this year. And for me, it was really cool because I've been in a team house before for like just with friends. But there I was actually with, like 10 other people or 9 other people that were all really good and really focused. And for me, it was really cool because just of the things you do together, because you're not just going for a walk with your friend, you're going for a walk with a friend that has the same goals as you and is a pro gamer as well, and it really adds to the experience, I think. Like even going to the gym every few days with the other pro gamers, like it really put me in a good mood, and like we could talk about StarCraft or whatever we wanted all the time, because we all have the same interests, largely, of course. So when it comes to gameplay, I think it's very hard to say because in practice, I am always really good, and it was the same in Korea. Like I don't know what was up with the other players, but they were all like stuck at 6K or something at the time in Korea, and I was like having fun at 6.7 or something like that. Oh, I turned the lights off. So like I don't know, like I feel like. Like as I said, I did really well in practice, and then at the IAM after, which was IAM Katowice, I feel like I had a decent performance, but it's not like it was spectacular or anything, right? For me, the best thing was really the enjoyment of the ladder, I think, because I'm really a ladder person. When I'm at home in Europe, I prefer to play the ladder than to play custom games. And at Korea, the ladder is actually so much better, mostly because they have more good players. Like I don't think the Korean ladder is good because they have Maru or something. You know what I mean? Like it's not about the players being. Is the sound of the cars on my right away?
You're okay if you want to leave your window open. That's
Okay,
fine.
okay.
If you want to close it, that's fine too. Whatever.
All right. So it's not about the players being better than the foreign players because, for example, on Europe we have Showtime where I play against a lot, and there's Cyril and Hero Marine and stuff, and it's like we have good players here too. But in Korea, they have 4 times as many good players. So on Europe, I would run into, let's say, I run into Showtime once for every time I run into 2 good Zergs. For every 5 times I run into someone that's not actually that great, right? But in Korea, it feels like I could actually practice until 4 a.m. and I would keep hitting good players all the time. Like it was very rare that I would actually play against someone and I thought, this guy was just too bad. Like it was kind of a waste of time. Like he's not really good enough. In Korea, it was like the practice was quality all day, and that was what I really enjoyed because, like here, it's kind of annoying to press find match. You want to start your ladder session, and I play against someone that's 6.3 on the U, and he will probably lose to my first drop or whatever, and if you're into getting a lot of MMR, then that's great, right? But in the general scheme of practicing, it's not very useful at all. But in Korea, I could search the button, and I would be pretty much guaranteed to get some good practice, which was for me the best thing in Korea.
There's we're kind of hitting a point now where there's been a really big split in between like the metagame of Korea and the metagame of the WCS circuit for like a while now. There was a long time where Zergs in the foreign scene were experiencing success while Korean Zergs were really floundering. Currently, we're
Yeah.
seeing Maru like take over GSL, 2 wins to his name this year, while foreign Terrans are really kind of struggling. Just play like Maru, forehead. What in your mind creates this like split and divide between the two different regions? And did you really see that while you were there practicing?
Are you talking about the gameplay or the success?
Like the gameplay styles of the two scenes, two regions.
Well, for Terrans, it's kind of simple because we are all kind of on our own in the foreign scene. Like, I honestly don't really have anyone to learn from here. Like, sometimes I can steal a build from here, Marine, if he does something sick, right? But mostly I have to figure out on my own how to win and counter the EU meta, because it, like, even with Home Story Cup now, and just to give an example, and Rainer and GSL, right? It seems very obvious that the European Zergs are actually really high level. And I'm not exactly sure how to put this. Like, between the two regions, the gap between the Zergs is by far the smallest, right? Like, there's barely a gap really between Korean Zergs and European Zergs. So what tends to happen in Korea a lot is that the Zergs they have a very desperate play style. I feel like they're very cheesy. They always try to cheese the Terrans, and most of the time it doesn't really work out since Zerg is not really a great race in Korea. But what happens in Europe is, for the Terrans, here all the Zergs almost play macro exclusively almost, right? So if I copy a build that a Korean Terran did against a cheesy Korean Zerg, most of the time I end up thinking it's a shit build, right? Because it doesn't work. Like, for example, in Korea for a really long time they didn't make a lot of queens. They like to skip roaches or banings. They like to go for roach all-ins. And in Korea, a very popular build was doing a Hellbat push because they barely have any queens. And if I do a Hellbat push in Europe, most of the time I'm gonna walk into 6 queens and just have 30 less SCVs than my opponent, you know. And I feel like most of the difference comes from the Zergs, because when it comes to Protoss, it's actually kind of similar. Like, if I see a good build in Korea and TVP, I can do it in Europe as well. But for Zergs, it doesn't really work because the European Zergs are they're the champions here, right? They're gonna play safe macro or aggressive macro, whatever. But they kind of make the game because they're the ones that win here. They decide how we play pretty much. But in Korea, the Zergs are like this um, small force that are like trying to cheese the other races out mostly. Of course, there are some exceptions. Like, of course, I know Rogue is the best Zerg in the world. I'm not trying to tell you Rainer is better than him or something. But I think it's the difference mostly comes from the difference in Zergs. I'm not sure if I made myself completely clear, but yeah, that's basically what it is. To try to put it a bit more simple, and in Korea, the Zergs play so much different from in Europe, so it's kind of impossible to copy the builds from Korea.
Interesting. It's I think that in the years since the WCS like format revamp, that's one of the more interesting problems slash storylines that the scene is faced with. Uh, recently, kind of recently, I guess, not too recently, a couple months ago, you got a bit of heat from the StarCraft 2 community for saying that it felt bad to lose 4-0 versus Serral in Challenger because you're usually favored against him. Statistically
Yeah.
and historically, You do indeed have a winning record against Cyril. What do you think of the community reaction to that comment and what went down there?
I mean, considering the, I'm gonna try to choose my words safely. So I think the reaction made sense, knowing what the StarCraft community usually likes, because I'm gonna tell the full story here, so I don't have to be safe or anything. It's not like I really care about that too much anyway. But I feel like the StarCraft community really wants someone like me or Cero to be like their dominant player. Like they really cling to those dominant players. Like as you can see with Maru, now he's the best. Everyone will love Maru, and no one can touch him, and he's the greatest and stuff, right? And it's the same with Cero. Like people want him to be who he is. Like he's the StarCraft community's dream, basically, because he's actually the best. Like I know that. I'm not stupid. So I am not a player with amazing results recently, right? So for me to say something like that fell in really bad taste with them, because they thought I was telling them I'm better than Sarah or something like that, you know. And they're like the holy child of the community. Like they want him to win everything. He's the one. So if you read my tweets, and I never regretted tweeting those things, because I read it back when I was not angry anymore, and I still thought they were perfectly reasonable. I'm not sure if I can. I can't remember what the tweets were exactly. I don't know if you have them in front of you.
I don't, but I can find them real quick, I
Okay.
bet.
All right. So basically, what I said, I think I made 2 tweets, right? And one of them was the one that you just said, is like, feels about to lose 4-0 to someone that you're usually even or favored against. And I think that was a completely reasonable statement, because even going back this year when he won everything, I actually won the last 2 encounters with him, and they weren't just shit series. I actually beat him in the IEM qualifier in a best of 5, and also I felt like in most of the important matches I played against him, I came out ahead. Like I felt most of my losses against him were in, like, I don't know, ladder heroes and stuff, like online cups. So I actually think it was a very reasonable statement to make, because I'm not saying I'm a better player than him. I was just saying I have a good time against him usually. And even on the ladder at the time, I did have a good time against him. And then in particularly that series it was very depressing, because I practiced so much against Protoss. Like I actually didn't play a single TVZ for like a week. That when I actually got to the finals against him, I didn't have a single build to use. Like if you go back now, I think you can actually realize that I just didn't know what to do. Like I actually couldn't think of a single build to use. So like it was like 0-1, 0-2, and like it didn't get any better. Like I started feeling more triggered as it went on, because I just couldn't think of anything to beat him. Like I didn't have anything against Zerg. I did builds. I did like half a year before that, and it was just in general a very depressing series. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Do you know what the other tweet was as well?
Yep. So first, gotta say, quote, gotta say, regardless of lack of preparation, still feels pretty terrible to lose 4-0 to someone you're usually even with or favored against, or even favored against,
Yeah.
excuse me. Shit is gonna hurt for a while. And then your second tweet was, admittedly, I obviously wasn't in great mental state for that series. Even today, I should have been able to take a couple maps if I tried harder. Oh well.
Okay. I feel like there was another one, because there were 2 tweets that the people were hating on, I believe.
That's the tweet chain.
But anyway, I think about this particular tweet, I expressed myself properly. Like it's being favored against someone doesn't mean you're better than him, right? For example, in offline matches, I have a good record against Innovation, and you know what I mean. like it actually, like you can be really good against a player. For example, I'm gonna choose 2 players because I don't want to make it sound like I'm bragging. So, for example, when you take Elaser, I think most people will consider him a more skilled player, or at least successful player than me these days, right? But if you look at my record against him, it's about a 90% win rate for me. And I can confidently say, because of that, that I am favored against him, right? Despite not being as good as him, perhaps. And then on the other side, there's maybe, for example, Nurcho, who has been slightly favored against me in the past when it comes to just skill, but mostly even or good for me. But I have like, it's like I only have like a 30% win rate against him over like 70 games or something. So judging from that, even if you would think I'm better than him skill wise, you could definitely say that he's favored. And that was my idea with the tweet against Sarah, because I mostly beat him. So I think that was a completely reasonable statement to make. Even if I don't think or didn't think at the time I was as good as Sarah, or not even close really, because I don't think I've really been that good this year. I really think it was a completely fine tweet to make, and it was kind of just taken out of context or whatever people did with that tweet. I don't know, but
I did find the second one. If you
oh, okay, yeah,
quote,
yeah.
glad I was able to make it to the finals. Didn't play any TBZs for the past few days, so I didn't have any strategies to choose from. Besides, balance being pretty strongly on his side too. Next
Mm.
time, with some TBZ practice and a better patch, it will be different. Winky face. GG's.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that was the balance part of that tweet is what people complain about, right? And to me, it was like that's exactly what I said. Like you can't say your race sucks, even if it's true, because the people will think you're whining, right? And in that scenario, the patch literally came out 2 days later. So, like, I don't know. It was just really blown out of proportion, to be honest. Like, even looking at it now, I still think my tweets were completely fine. And if people want to do that with them, then go ahead. But I really didn't regret posting those tweets or anything like that. Even like listening to them now, I was kind of surprised that there was such a fuss about them, because it sounds so minor. But maybe that's just my point of view. But yeah, like that's how I see it, and that's my clarification, I guess.
Do you think, though, that this sets up the money match of the century? uThermal, Cyril, best of 7, 10 grand. Is there a chance?
I mean, there could be, actually. I
I
don't
think
think
that
I would
might.
dodge that, but I will admit that in before whiny for Terran. But as I said before, Zerg is still good right now. So once the win rates drop down a bit after a nice patch, I would actually be okay with that, honestly.
So let's play hypotheticals right now, okay?
Yeah.
You are now the balance decider, balance guy, game dev for StarCraft 2. What
Shit.
do you think each of the races like needs to have happen to them for the game to be the perfect utopia of balanced win rates?
So you're basically asking me everything what's wrong with StarCraft,
I
right?
mean,
Because
maybe.
you have to be careful, because I could actually talk about this for 7 hours.
No, it's okay.
So
I when I interviewed Fear Dragon, he talked about
yeah.
Smash Bros for like a whole hour. So the bar's
Oh,
pretty
okay.
low here. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So first of all, I do have to say I'm not one of those people that thinks, why don't they just do this? It's so easy. I actually think it's very, very difficult. So right now, I think the biggest issue we have is the difficulty of each race. If I would have to rate the difficulty of each race, I would give Terran a 10. Like Terran is the hardest one to play. And then Protoss is like reasonably close. Like I think, but when I watch Protoss players play and see how unforgiving it can be, I think Protoss is difficult. Like Protoss is if Terran's a 10, I would give Protoss a 9. And it seems like Zerg is like a 7 or a 6.5 or something. Like, I mean, it's a bit amplified by the fact that Zerg is actually strong right now. But as you can see with WCS, it really seems like the difficulty is becoming more of an issue because I'm not going to name any names, and I don't mean this in any bad way either. But even the best Terrans or Protoss players can barely keep up with like second-rate foreign Zergs, and I really think it's a big problem. So the problem is that it's amplified because Zergs in Korea are Zerg is not that prominent in Korea, right? So when it comes to actual changes in the game, I think it's almost an unfixable problem to make Zerg a bit more difficult because I don't really know how you would do that. I think the main issue is probably the Queen because the Queen is like I know this is not a proper change, obviously, but like the Queen is basically the mule or the chrono boost / recall of the Zerg, right? So what happens is that their Nexus mechanic, just to call it that way, is actually capable in defending everything. What happens in a lot of games I see with Zerg is that if you are Maru or like whoever is really insane at the time, you can pull apart a Zerg just fine, right? But if you're me, who is I think it's safe to call me the best European Terran, a lot of the games I would lose because like it sounds so stupid to say this, but it's just because the Zerg has queens and I don't. Because, for example, I played a game earlier today just to show like the level of forgiveness or like how unforgiving a race is that I misplaced a depot in my wall, right? And 15 Zerglings walk in. And as a Terran, the game ends. Like there's nothing you have to defend it. Like you just don't have that production early on, right? Like it was the stage where I was building my second and third barracks, and that's it. And the Zerg had no defense at all ready for my Hellion run by, so you say it should be even, but the Zerg has the 6 queens. And I feel like the queens just make the game really easy in general. A problem for Protoss as well is that creep gives complete vision. Like vision is really easy to get as Zerg. Their units are fast on creep, so you like setting up engagements is really easy defensively. But if you're a Terran or Protoss, like if your adept is not in the wall or your depot is down, something like that, you can instantly lose the game because vision is much harder to acquire for us, as well as us not having a defensive mechanic. Now Protoss has 1 recall each 3 minutes, which is something, but of course compared to Zerg's having 8 queens or whatever, it's obviously still nothing at any time, right? So to give the biggest balance change I think should happen for the game is to have like a complete redesign of the queen. Because this is not an issue that's about the strength of the units. Like Zerg being strong might be because of the Hydralisk or whatever, right? But I think because the Zerg has the queen, the race is just a bit too easy. Like it's very obvious if you look at WCS. Like it's not like the 11 Zergs that get to the top 16 every time are actually more talented or whatever than the Protoss or Terran players. Like I'm completely fine with like Serral being more talented than everyone or whatever, but you need to put some reasonable boundaries. So if I would make a balance change or a design change, then the first thing I would do is redesign Zerg to make it a bit more difficult. But at the same time, you need to be careful with the strength, because it's not like you can just nerf Zerg and say like, well, now it's still easy, but it's weak. Like that doesn't make any sense. So it's like this is the most difficult change I would say, which is one I would do because like I think Protoss and Terran are almost at a similar difficulty. The only difference I think between Protoss and Terran is that the army of the Protoss is a little bit stronger without micro, or you know.
Like pure
So
A
if
move.
yeah. Which is a big part. Like the further away from Maru's skill you are, the worse that is. Like in WCS, I think those things are the main reason there's not that many Terrans. Like if against Zerg, it's the absolute worst. If you A move against a Zerg, no matter if you're a Terran or Protoss, the Zerg will always win pretty much. You know, like the Zerg army doesn't require any micro. It's just like that. And I know that before the Zerg start hating me, I know that if you get like Immortal Archon Storm, like I know how good the Protoss army is. Like Zergs don't really kill that army, but like if you have let's put the scenario where you have 3 battles at the same time, then unless the Terran micros all of them perfectly, the Terran will lose in that scenario, like almost always, because the Terran army is the worst when not microed, right? So that's why people like Hair Marine, for example. I don't know if you're very familiar with his style, but what he really likes to do is to do like one really big push. Because he's good at macro, he doesn't have to deal with all these drops everywhere at 3 places. It's just a very straightforward. Maybe it doesn't have the highest potential of game style, but it how do you say it avoids the problem of Terran units being bad when they're not micro. And then right below that is Protoss. Like if a Protoss A moves against the Terran and a Terran A moves, the Protoss will obviously win. But against Zerg, it's like the Zerg will always win basically in that kind of scenario, and that's the ladder of difficulty. So it's the most micro required, as well as being unforgiving. That's Terran at number 10, and then Protoss is right there with like also a lot of micro required, but a bit more forgiving than Terran, and then Zerg is like having very comfortable position and like barely any micro throughout the game, as well as being very forgiving. Like you can ask any Terran or Protoss pro, and they would tell you the same. Like I once saw, I remember who it was. It was probably Nurture or something. Complain that Zerg was unforgiving, and that's like that's a complete joke. Like it's just like it's very crazy to say something like that. As a Zerg, there is no complaints when it comes to difficulty. And now, to get onto the next subject of the balance changes, I told you I was going to go on for a while. That has nothing to do with the strength of a race, right? Because even if Zerg is easy, Zerg can still be shit, and sometimes it is shit. Right now, that's not the case, but those are two different things. Like it's very possible for Zerg to be the worst race despite being easy, or relatively easy, I should say. I feel a bit bad about saying the word easy, because I should say relatively easy, because I don't think it's easy to play
Not as
any race
difficult.
at high level. Yeah.
Not so much easy, but just not as hard as the other ones, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So if we would come to balance changes, I think it's very hard to target Protoss or Terran, because like when it comes to strength right now, I would put like if Zerg is a 10, then I think Terran is a, let's see, it shouldn't be too drastic, but it's if Zerg is a 10, I think Terran's a 9 and Protoss is an 8.5, something like that. Like Protoss is the worst, and then Zerg is without a doubt the strongest. So like you can't really, like the smartest thing seems for me is it would be to nerf Zerg a bit, right? Because if you buff Protoss, even though they're already like, I would say they're a bit worse than Terran, but they're close, then that's also risky. And like Terran is in the middle, so Terran, it shouldn't be buffed or nerfed, I would say. I mean, unless they want to buff both Pros and Terran, but that seems a bit ridiculous. So, but the thing is, I have a hard time like picking out what's so good about Zerg. Like I really can't be like, the bailing, that's fucked up. Like I think it might be just what I said with the design changes, that the queen should be nerfed or something like that. Because I think if a Zerg doesn't always know what I'm doing, I think the gameplay would be a lot more balanced as well. Like it doesn't just have to be a strength of the unit, but a lot of the games against Zerg, you do a build that everyone knows after a few times, because everyone does the same builds pretty much in like a certain, radius. Luckily, we don't have that many Terrans here in Europe, so sometimes you can keep a secret. But anyway, right now the Zerg will always know what you do, because at the first stage of the game they have the Overlord, which means it will see, just to get like very in depth here, is that they will see which add-on your starport has, things like that. They will see the first things. Of course, it will see if you have an expansion first, and then it will go to a safe cliff and then check if you have a starport and on what add-on it is, or a 30C or whatever. And then I'm not sure about the timing exactly, but around the time their third base finishes, their vision will already be very significant, because the creep, it spreads so fast, and as they get more overlords, they can spread them from, I would say, minute 6 or 7, probably about 6. You just cannot surprise a Zerg anymore, no matter what. And like, I'm trying to make this a coherent story, right? Because I feel like it's a lot of elements coming together. But it's the center is the queen on the overlord, so just focus on the queen mostly. So they already have all the vision they need, and then there's the added effect of the larva mechanic. So if you know what your opponent's doing, and you have the power to make 12 drones at once, it can go very negatively. Like if I play against a Zerg that's decently far below my level, let's say he is 6.4k MMR, right? Which is like semi-pro / pro line, kind of. And I decide to not attack him, and he only makes drones, he will probably end up destroying me, even if I'm greedy, right? Let's say I do a greedy build, I'm 3cc, and he knows what I'm doing and only drones, he will be really far ahead and win. And I feel like since Zergs have become too good at that part, I feel like the imbalance happened. Because, as I said, if a Zerg knows what you're doing, because of the larva mechanic, they can destroy whatever it is, because they can either make 12 drones or they can make 12 roaches or 7 roaches, depending on the amount of money you have. So if you do any push and they know it's coming, it will never work. And if you're greedy and they know you're being greedy, it will never work. So I think the biggest problem is the vision, the larva, just everything around the queen, basically. But I also realized that, of course, the game is balanced around the queen. So it's not like you can say, okay, the queen, you're going to StarCraft 3 or whatever. But it's definitely a problem. And I'm talking so passionately about the queen because I also talk to a lot of Protoss players. And for them, it's the same. Like, everyone thinks creep is bullshit. Like, the vision is too much the Zerg has. And I think previously this wasn't as big of a problem because the Zergs were not as good, But like at my level, the top Zergs, I would say, like, Raynor, Lambo, Cero, Zergs like that. Like, they're not gonna miss their creep or their scout timings or whatever. And yeah, it's just like it needs to be toned down a bit. Like, they could nerf the creep. Like, they can't nerf the larva because they need a certain amount of larva, right? But they need to make it more difficult for them. Like, I'm just getting back to the same design problem, I know, but I think now I'm talking about balance. I think it's just like it's the same, because like I don't think the Hydra is inherently broken, Like, it's a strong unit, but it's not like I would say, like, man, I'm losing every game because of Hydras or Banelings. Of course, they could buff Terran late game a bit. That's actually a balance change they could go along with. But yeah, man, like I need to stop talking about this because it's really like it's just that's just all I think. Like it's just about the difficulty, and most of it is because of the queen. That's basically what I tried to say in like 20 minutes.
I think it's really interesting to hear this kind of talk because, like, for me, I don't know, man. Right? Like, I try and avoid thinking about balance as much as possible because I'm not.
Yeah, you should.
At the top. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting. So the last tournament you played was Home Story Cup, and you played as Protoss, and that's like the big meme right now. If I had $1 for everyone that replied to my tweet announcing that you were the guest, he's not a Terran though, he's a Protoss now. Oh my God, you're all very original. Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
No hate. I love you, StarCraft fandom. Follow me on Twitter. Okay. But yeah, you talked very, very in depth there about how the core foundation of Zerg is too good. How queens are just a little bit too good. So, what made you decide to go into Protoss? Was it just having that familiar experience because you played it so much, in the past? Why not Zerg?
Well, I've been having a bit of a bad time recently competing as Terran. Like my results haven't been up to par. I've just not been having a good time. So I thought Home Story Cup would be the perfect tournament to try and break the pattern. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to have fun at a tournament for once instead of being serious and then sad after I lose. And I just went for it. Like it was a bit YOLO, but I was like, fuck it. If there was ever a tournament I could do something like this on, it'll be Home Story Cup. And then because I still wanted to, put on somewhat of a decent performance, I was gonna play Protoss because first of all, I think Protoss is somewhat similar to Terran in the way you produce and things like that. But also, I already know kind of how to play Protoss. I played a bit of Protoss a few months ago. I was like top 50 GM on Europe, and with Zerg, like I played random in Wings of Liberty for a bit, and I played a little bit of like low GM Zerg in Heart of the Swarm, but it would be very, very ugly if I played Zerg at Home Story Cup. And like I didn't just go there to troll people, Like I really wanted to get a win. Like I tweeted before, my goal was to get 2 series wins, and I did. And if I played Zerg, I wouldn't have won a single map. So I guess that's the reason.
Will we is there a timeline where you think you'd ever switch from Terran to play Protoss or Zerg, as your exclusive race?
Yeah, I think I'll switch to Protoss. Well, to be completely honest, I think I will either quit or switch to Protoss. Yeah, after this year.
That's
yeah. It's a bit of a big thing to say, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a big thing to say. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's I think the most likely thing for me to do is either to try compete a bit as Protoss, even though I know it'd be very difficult, or potentially retire after this year.
You've been kind of teasing that too recently as well. And there have been moments in the past where you've posted on Twitter that you've like uninstalled the game and stuff, but
and that was hilarious.
Yeah. Everyone took it so seriously.
Yeah, I know. It's like I didn't post anything. I just posted a picture of me uninstalling, and then like somehow a story on Reddit shows up about how I retired because the depths were too strong, and I didn't even play any Protoss at all. I was just like I was tired of the game. I can't remember who I lost to. I think I lost to Lambo in a cup. And then I was just like, oh, this game's triggering me. I'm just gonna. And literally, my plan was never to quit. I just uninstalled the game, and I wanted to take a few days break. So I visited my parents, and when I come back home, I reinstalled it. But somehow people made out of that I retired because of Protoss. And for me, it was kind of hilarious as well. And then the thing was, like, when I started playing again, the people were mocking me, like, "Whoa, I thought you said you were retiring and stuff." And I was like, "What the fuck?"
That's
Took a
too good.
literal 2 days break.
Oh man. But now you're talking about, really stepping down or really making a big change.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be the first Terran to try and switch to Protoss. I know that Show was really dedicated to that in 2013, I think.
And
So
Morrow, I think, right?
yeah, Morrow did too.
It's just
Yeah, yeah.
I I'm always confused whether he played Zerg or Terran when he switched, because I know he played a bit of everything, but I think he played Terran at the time.
Yeah,
Because I
me
remember
too.
him beating Hydra in WCS in the LA studio with Terran.
But
So
I
yeah, I
mean,
guess Morrow.
let's
Neve.
talk about your process. I'm sorry, I just cut you off. I thought you were done. My bad.
Yeah, no problem.
Like you're still a young guy. You're 22. What
Yeah.
makes you kind of lean towards the idea that you might be winding down in the next? You said the next year.
Yeah, like after this season of WCS. It's I've been having a rough time after I won the IAM, because I really feel like I was supposed to win a lot more, and when I look at my practice, I really should have. Like, I don't know if the people are aware of how well I perform in practice, and of course I know it doesn't matter. All that matters is the tournament results. But like, there will be, you can ask pretty much any foreigner, and they will be able to tell you that they got destroyed by me a few times in practice. And there were times where I went in a tournament actually seeming like I was the best player from practice, right? And yet I never was able to get a really good result again. And at first, after my IEM championship, it was all good, right? Like, I became world champion for the first time. I joined Team Liquid. I still got some top fours, and everything was fine. But then, like, in 2017, just to tell you the entire story, in 2016 I missed BlizzCon by 15 points, which is basically like attending an event I didn't, or playing a challenger season I missed, something like that, right? But because I was so good at the time, I won IM top for Mexico, blah blah blah. It seemed like a given I would qualify for BlizzCon in 2017, right? But the results just never came together. And in Austin, which was the first event last year, I didn't do so well, but also I wasn't that good at the time, admittedly. So I was happy with my top 16. And then in Jönköping, the event after, I really felt like skill-wise, I was probably the second best player there. Like, I was owning everyone at the time, and I made a top 8 and got 3-0'd by Kelleser. And then after that, I had 2 group stage exits, which is like, as you can imagine, being a contender for best forward Terran at the time, and I am champion of last year. You can imagine what going out in group stages feels like, right? Like, it was very harsh, and I kind of developed like, I don't know how to say. It's just, it was hard for me to enjoy the events the past time. Like, most of the events were just I would go there and I would be quite serious, and I would always end up being really sad. Like, for some reason, I was really really sad the last few times. Even in Austin, like this year, like, I had pneumonia. It was I didn't even blame my pneumonia for losing at all. And even despite being in, honestly pretty poor conditions, I was still really sad to lose. And I noticed that I kind of lost my happiness in competing a little bit. Because I honestly think practicing is really fun. Like, I really like practicing StarCraft, but I notice whenever I go to an event, I always I become really sad when I lose, and it's like I always manage to enjoy the event in the end, but it's hard to forget what the competing makes you feel like, right? And Home Story Cup was my first attempt to break that pattern, but like we will see at Valencia. I think Valencia is going to be an important one, but for me, it's honestly not about the results at this point, but I really need to find my happiness in competing again. Because if I feel so sad every time I play a tournament, for me, I'll just, it's better to give it up. And the thing is that I have a very loyal support crew. Like my mother loves me to play and compete, and my girlfriend loves me to play and compete, and they always motivate me. But yeah, maybe it's a bit of a sad thing to talk about, but for me, mostly it's just about the happiness in competing, because I'm actually like my friends can tell you that when I'm not playing StarCraft or whatever, I'm actually the happiest guy. I'm having such a good time, and I didn't actually realize how much competing changed me in that way. I remember the Muslim told me when I lost in excuse me, in WESG Europe to Cyril. I tweeted something which was just a sad tweet, like always, right? And I walked away a bit angrily and sat outside for a few hours. And he told me that he didn't even recognize the person I usually am. And when I start paying attention to it, I can actually see it. Like I'm always really cheery and I'm always enjoying everything. I like to make the people laugh, that kind of guy usually. But when I compete in tournaments, it's I have a very rough time. So if I don't manage that uh, anytime soon, then I think it would be better for me to call it quits and actually, I mean, I would honestly like to do some other things in the scene, but not play.
That's a really deep introspection there, and
Yeah.
I think you deserve a lot of respect for thinking about things in that way and feeling out your own kind of thought process and emotions and putting yourself first. I think that's just so healthy. I mean, there's been other players. Idra is the one that really jumps out to me. There's Idra, when he left, it was so obvious and so blatant that he just hated competing and hated the game
Yeah.
too, and even the community. And it was just like, this is the right thing for him to do. And
Yeah.
yeah, I would never want to see anybody go so far down that path where they're just forcing themselves to do the thing that makes them so upset, unhappy. But hopefully, fingers crossed, Valencia goes well. The next year goes well. If you have to switch to Protoss, that goes well, because God, we don't want to lose you, uThermal. That would be depressing too.
Yeah. So also one thing I would like to add is that there are some people that actually thought I switched to Protoss in Home Story Cup because I would have a better chance, or that I did that because I thought I had a better chance with Protoss. But that's just like it's part of this, Like I'm trying to enjoy competing again, and that would be the main reason for me to switch to Protoss, I think.
I think it's interesting too that it seems like every time something happens to you, or like this Home Story Cup, right? Everyone, all the fandom takes away is, oh, Protoss OP. Like, even though
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
just sat here and you talked about how Protoss is probably the weakest race right now, but
yeah,
people will still walk away and be like, ah, Protoss, bringing uThermal down, shake their fists at the
yeah.
sky.
I know, I know. It's the same when I stream, to be honest. Like I told you before, like sometimes I want to have a cheery stream, and I play a like. Of course, sometimes I get upset when I lose a TVP, salty or whatever. But sometimes I play a nice TVP, and it was an enjoyable game, but I lose, and I'm like, well, you know, it's first game of the day, just the warm up's all right. And then I read the chat, and everyone's like, oh, fuck Protoss. And they go in so hard, and I'm like, well, guess that's just how it works around here.
Classic StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
So heading into Valencia here, who are some of the players that you have your eye on to do really well? How's your own form? How's the form of your team? What's the TLDR of the scope of the field here?
I would say it's quite similar to the last one, surprisingly, because as you know, in Austin, we actually had some upsets with Mana, Lambo, Neeb losing so early, things like that. But I think they actually managed to keep their form. Like, I feel like Lambo is still a candidate to do well again. I think Mana is really motivated to actually do well. Now he's high in a WCS point list. And I think Mana and Snit are kind of in the same boat. Like, they're in the top 8 and they're hoping to make it happen, right? Even though you wouldn't rate them as high as like Cyril or something, they, I wonder if their motivation and dedication can actually carry them through. And then my eyes are on Raynor mostly, because I am kind of like an anti-hype person, because usually when someone is really hyped, they're overrated. It's just like it kind of comes together, because like if people want to hype someone, like he could be, I don't know, like he could be like 50 MMR better than the rest, but he will be an instant god. You know what I mean? Even though he's realistically just a little bit better than the other guy or whatever. So Raynor is probably going to be very overhyped because, obvious reasons, 16-year-old, first WCS, top 16 GSL. But I when I watch his stream, I actually think he is really, really good. Like, he's one of the first hype prospects I actually think is really good. Now, I really don't think making the top 16 GSL is a guarantee for him to actually do well, because it's such a different tournament. But I honestly think if he doesn't get too nervous and things go well for him, he could make a very deep run and ruin some dreams with his zero WCS point seeding.
Oh,
And
no.
then let's see, Special is he's still favored to make like top 4, I would say, because he's always so consistent. But this time I would be less surprised for him to lose early, because I don't know where I noticed this, but I have a feeling like that he is a bit weaker than in the last 2 tournaments. Like maybe I feel like he's had a hard time after losing in Austin or something, but I wouldn't be surprised if he loses a bit earlier this time. And then for me, actually, I played Terran for like 30 games in the last 2 weeks, which were all today and yesterday. But somehow I still climbed up to like 7.1k MMR, so I guess I'm not that bad either. But as I said before, most of my focus should really be on enjoying the event rather than actually performing. So my goal is just going to be to make group stage 3, and if I get my money from group stage 3, I think I'm all right.
Good.
And then for Protoss players, because I don't think I mentioned any Protoss besides Mana. I think Neve is probably gonna make a strong comeback, because I honestly rate Neve super high always. Like I'm really surprised he lost last time, but like he's a genius, So if Neve's in the top 4 or even the final, that makes sense to me. If I would make a prediction of the top 4 players, which is impossible because I don't know the bracket, but I would probably say it's Sarah, Raynor, Special, and Neeb, with possibly someone being replaced by Lambo or Elaser. I think that makes the most sense, because Showtime is really high ranked, but like he has kind of similar issues to me. I think like he just doesn't perform that well for tournaments for whatever his reasons are. So despite acknowledging his skill, I don't have a lot of faith for him when it actually comes to tournaments. So I wouldn't place him that high. And then who else is high ranked? True. I think True became a bit better recently as well. I feel like during Austin he was rather weak, and Leipzig as well. But I feel like he got a bit better. So maybe a top 8 for him. And then I think we have most of the high relevant players, I would say. Is there any other player you're wondering about specifically, or?
No, just general scope of things from your pro player perspective.
Oh, and Fortix and Lucerfan are playing as well.
Oh yeah, have they? Do you run into them on ladder at all, or are they coming in like super fresh?
I don't know about Lucerfan, but I meet Fortix on the ladder sometimes, and he's not bad. Let me tell you.
Interesting. That would be really crazy if they made a real serious dent. I feel like,
Yeah,
oh man, people would be so excited.
yeah. I feel like Lucerfan is like I don't know his barcode or anything, but because Fortix has been playing, I assume Lucerfan has been playing as well, and I would say he's probably about Insane's level, like 6.3, and Vortex is a kind of like Bly's level, something like that.
Very respectable. Yeah, that'll be an interesting storyline. Definitely.
Also, I'm not sure which players are in Korea right now exactly. Because I think I'm always kind of curious to those because they either perform well or really bad. Like it's always an extreme. Like a lot of the time they lose in the group stage, but Lambo made top 4, which is like by really far the best performance of his career, you know. So I'm always kind of interested in those. And then my favorite Terrans, Kellezer, Masa, Soul. I think the Terran lineup is very complete. So maybe we can see some Terran upsets here as well. I would like some Terrans in the bracket for my viewing experience.
Hell yeah. So I did take some fan questions. I got a bunch on Twitter actually. It was pretty cool. You got a nice little fan base. Future of Terran asks, what pros/cons do you think? Actually, you know what? We're not even going to get into that because we just answered the balance stuff. Future of Terran also asks, though, how do you approach ladder, customs, and tournament matches? Where do you develop most as a player? And you mentioned ladder earlier, but what is
Yeah.
that preference? Why do you prefer ladder?
So just to put it simple, I think ladder is ideal for developing mechanical skill and micro, which are my strengths as well. And you can tell that I have a bit of a lack in how to say strategical brilliance because I think that's mostly what you develop in custom games because custom games are mostly to think of counter strategies or because the negative about custom games is that you, for example, if you play against Snoot in a tournament, you can't really play against like Denver because Denver is mostly he likes to do tricks and cheeses, and Snoot's strength is in like really long games. So it is better to play on ladder against like various styles of Zerg and hope to just develop your mechanics and learn to play against different Zerg styles than to play against someone who doesn't play like your target opponent. Like custom games are very specific. So I would say, for example, for Challenger, right? When I'm in a group stage, I would like to play ladder because there's 3 different opponents, potentially even 3 different races, and it's more important for me to just be generally good. But when I get to the round of 8 and I play one match against a very specific opponent I know a week before for a WCS qualifying spot, then I will mostly just play customs for that match. So for me, customs is really just specific preparation, and ladder is just general skill, getting your general skill as high as possible. And then for tournaments, it also depends on what kind of tournament it is. Because if you go to a DreamHack, which are most of the tournaments nowadays, I think it's more important to be generally good and preferably have a wide range of strategies, which is the most difficult part. But I think most of the desired skill is just general skill, being good at mechanics and micro and stuff. But if you play in GSL, because even though I know it's a group stage, you get a lot of time to prepare. Or, for example, the IEM 1 is kind of the same because you just play one opponent each day. Then it's nice to play customs and prepare for that one specific opponent.
Cool. Shouts to Future of Terran too for asking questions. Nice up and coming NA Terran lad.
It's one of my boys.
Hell yeah. I'm gonna butcher this. Inga Brigtsen 93. I'm so sorry. I'm apologizing right now for that apocalypse of a pronunciation. This person asked, I was wondering how you got the crazy idea to cannon rush and how you found all those cool spots like on Acid Plant. Did you spend long searching for those?
Well, it's I have a guy who taught me how to cannon rush, and basically I told him, because a lot of my friends, like just like everyone gets frustrated at StarCraft one time, right? Like everyone will. So I just told him, just spend a day cannon rushing or something, or you should cannon rush. And he had so much fun, and he actually promoted from Diamond to Master. He's normally Terran even, and he actually like I think it was like right after I came home from Austin, like before Home Story Cup, or no, it was after I lost in Challenger to Snoop. That's what it was. And I was like, I'm fed up. I don't want to play for a bit. And he told me like, oh, you should cannon rush a bit. You should play some Protoss. So I took it up, and like, trust me, man. Like I'm telling all the viewers, like that shit's hilarious. Like if you guys are stressed or whatever, just take a day of your time and just cannon rush everyone. Like if you don't like insults, just turn on the mature language filter. But if you enjoy insults like me, then keep it on. Just have a good time, man. So I started playing, and my friend he taught me how to cannon rush, because he'd been doing it for a few days. And for example, on Acid Plan, there's a really broken spot. And I would be on Discord with him, and every time I got Acid Plan for work, I would be Acid Plan against Sir, and I get super hyped because we both knew I would win, and it was just so much fun. And the guy I'm talking about is also the guy that tweeted it at you, so it was a bit of a meme question, but I wanted to tell the story anyway.
Well, bless. Again, sorry I butchered your name. There's like a cruel irony there too, that Snoot was like, "Oh, just cannon rush, it's funny," and then what happened on stream?
No, it wasn't Snoot. It was my friend.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you mentioned that Snoot said the same thing.
No.
My bad. No. Poor Snoot.
Yeah, I lost him with Terran, and then I beat him with Protoss. And it was funny because in the WCS, like this was already at the part where I was trying to take it easy, and I realized I started to get a bit tilted, right? So when I was 2-1 down against Snoot, I asked them like, "Hey, can I play Protoss for the rest of this match?" And they were like, "Nah." And then it's funny because I actually would have had a good chance to win if they let me play Protoss. I realize now.
I really miss the days where you could switch in a series. Oh, I wish they would change that rule so much. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, but it messes up the feeders.
Yeah, whatever. Don't bring your logic into this, okay? Give me my fandom.
Hey, it's not my argument. That's what the people tell me. I mean, I'm one of the people that would like to race switch. I play Protoss, I play Terran.
Well, someday. I want to give a shout out to Shadow Adjutant, who asked from my Discord the question about the Netherlands scene earlier. Shoutouts.
Oh, yeah.
Bad Rocks from my Discord also asks, what is the best game/series that you have played in your career and why?
I like this question, but I need to think about it. The best game I have ever played is probably... I mean, it's an old game, so it might look like shit. But it was in 2015 when I played against Snoop in the IEM Shenzhen qualifier. If you guys want to go and watch it, it's great. It's basically I was still an up and coming Terran. Like I was like a low premier, high challenger kind of Terran, right? And Steve was like an established Titan. And I play in this IEM qualifier. And I already beat like 3 of the best foreigners in that bracket, which was like my best run ever. Like I beat Lilba, who was the best Protoss. Then I beat Bunny, who was the best Terran, and then I beat Harston, who was like the second or third best Protoss. And then I played Snook, who was the best Zerg. And it was 1-1. And then in game 3, the deciding game for who would go to IEM in the first place, we played an absolute mad game. It was like I pushed him with Marines really early on, and he deflected, and he bailing all limbed me, and like my wall survived on like 1 hit or something. And then for literally 20 minutes, I had my rally point in his base, and I was just rallying stint Marines down with medevacs, and like at one point I had like 24 medevacs for 4 Marines or something. Like I just never stopped building them. And then the ending move is one of my proudest moves. It's like he did a Ling run by on top and a bailing run by on the left. And I sent a squad of Marauders to the left and my Marines to the right. And as soon as I cleaned it up, I did one final push. And then I killed him in a really big battle. And especially because of how epic the run was. And this was like the conclusion to an epic run. I always remember that game when someone asked me that. It was super cool. And especially for that time, it was a really high level game. Like it was like the start looked a bit wonky and stuff, but the macro, micro, everything was super cool. And to clarify again, it was in the IEM Shenzhen qualifier, in the winner bracket qualifying match, game 3 against Snoop in 2015, if anyone wants to watch. And for series, because I was thinking about a series as well. I think I was thinking about my series against Neeb in the IAM final, because I actually played really well in that one. I mean, it was a 4-2 score and it didn't look like the best series, but I did play really well. Series is hard to say, I think. I don't think I have a lot of like super epic series, especially not offline. I'll think about it. Maybe I'll come back to it in a little bit.
We can circle back on that one.
Yeah.
Kira from Discord asks, how does it feel to have people give you the title of best of when it comes to playing your race? Do you personally feel it's an accurate description, or are there areas you know that other Terran players do something better than you do in a certain respect?
Right now, I would say I am the second best foreign Terran and the best European Terran. So if people call me the best European Terran, it feels like it doesn't feel that special anymore, because it's been like this for a while now. But I would say it's accurate. Like I think Hero Marine is great, but I think when it comes to complete game plan or micro, for example, he's lacking a bit compared to me still. But if I would take something from him, I would like to take his. I don't know how he does it, but I would like to steal his way to choose build orders, because that is one of my weaknesses. I'm not that good at choosing build orders, whereas I think he chooses them quite well. Like I think he's better at planning series than I am. So I think I'm the best European Terran, but I would take that from him. And when it comes to best foreign Terran, I would say Major or Special is a bit better. And I think his strengths are kind of similar to Hero Marine over me. Like he's a better player than Hero Marine overall, but he also, over me in particular, he has his strategies and his series planning. Like when I watch him, for example, I feel like I could execute what he does just fine, but I don't have the strategical thinking or planning to, fit that all into a series or practice or something like that. And if it comes to all time, I would say I'm also the second best foreign Terran, probably behind Thorazane. Whose skills I wouldn't. I mean, I would like to have them, but I'm not really like it, because he was kind of a late game camper, like a turtler. It's not really the kind of gameplay I like, but I mean, it would be a nice skill to have, I guess.
So we talked about your possible potential closing of your pro gaming career. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
see. I guess. Uh, Discord Denizen Daedalus asks, "What is your plan for life after esports? You mentioned that you'd want to stay around and maybe do something in esports. What do you think you'd do?"
Well, first of all, I would really like to have my own team. So probably my prime goal is to try to organize, or at least, like I would like to manage a team. Like for example, I don't know if there's any space for that, but I wouldn't mind managing a team in Team Liquid, for example, or managing my own team or another team. But I would really like to, because coming from AT Gaming, I was a really like in the community figure. Like I was always with the people, and I always enjoyed rooting for my friends and stuff. So having like my own group of people that I manage to root for, or even my own team, something like that, I think to me it sounds very, very good. And beyond that, there's a lot of things I still want to do. I want to perhaps open an internet, or how do you say, a gaming house or an internet cafe with my girlfriend. And I still want to study as well. Like I'm not sure what I'm going to do in 20 years, obviously, but there's still quite a few things I want to do.
Nice. Those are all pretty good goals. So, if you were, say, you have your team right now and you're building your roster, who are the young up and coming players who you'd want to fill those ranks? I think obviously like Rainer's probably in there, but who are some up and coming Terrans that you have your eye
Um, I would for sure get Clem, because I think if there's going to be a foreign Terran to win a championship anytime soon, which I mean like the next few years, before like StarCraft 3 or whatever, I think it will probably be Clem. So I would definitely get Clem. And then for Protoss players, I'd probably get Hellraiser, because I think Hellraiser is actually a top tier Protoss talent as well. And then for Zerg, let's see. I would get, well, Raynor is one of the options, of course, is one of the primary talents. I think Namshar is also a pretty good pickup, because I always think Namshar is a bit underrated. Like he, like, to be fair, he used to not be that great. Like a year ago, you could watch his games and be like, well, he's all right. But nowadays, I watch his game sometimes. Like I remember watching his game against Showtime in Nation Wars, and I don't know what the other one was I watched, but I think his play is actually very impressive from time to time. So I think Raynor or Namshar are two really good pickups for Zerg, and then Hellraiser and Clem. And then I'll have the team of the future.
Definitely cool. I'm going to give you a chance to circle back on that question about the series. Do you think of one yet?
No.
No? Okay, that's
It's very
right.
difficult.
What advice would you give to anyone trying to make their name as a professional gamer in StarCraft 2 in this day and age?
Well, I mean, I I want to give an answer where people are gonna call me whiny for, but I would actually advise them to not play Terran, first of all, and that's not because of the strength. It's the difficulty issue I discussed, right? Like looking at tournaments right now, it actually doesn't feel like a Terran is gonna win one soon. Like, so we have Major. It's going to be a short story. Don't worry. It's we have Major, who I don't even really consider a foreign Terran, because he lives in Korea and he only plays in Korea, and not even he has managed to get a final yet. And then when it comes to like actual foreign Terrans, I don't think we even have a top four. We have one top 8 this year with Hero Marine, but that's it. So I say you should probably follow the trend and pick Zerg, or maybe if you like Protoss, you can pick it too. But don't play Terran. And then a thing I didn't do, which I wish I did more, was copying good people, which sounds very logical, but it doesn't end up being logical, because most of the time, like even if I look at a Korean game, I can even if it's innovation or something, I can look at him and be like, man, why would you do something this stupid, you know? But from experience, I know that it always has a reason what they do, no matter it could be to just throw the opponent off, to blind counter one of his strategies, you know? And I think there is always something you can learn from others. For example, even a player who is twice as bad as you are, you can actually learn from him for very small things. Because in StarCraft, you build habits. No matter if they are good or bad habits, you will build habits. So what I did for a really long time in Heartless Farm, I don't remember the exact build, but I just learned a build, which was Reaper Expand and then Marine Factory, like really standard stuff. But I never knew that you could make the Marine before the depot until one of my like low master friends told me. And like it sounds stupid, but like really in StarCraft, you will build a habit if you do something. Like it just everyone will have 100 bad habits and probably way more good ones, like 1,000 good habits, but you will have them. So even like something I didn't do for years, but really should do, is just learn from others, because no matter how bad or way too good they are, you'll actually be able to learn from everyone. So if you're up and coming, actually watch like Korean, but also foreign StarCraft and even your national competitions wherever you live, and actually try to learn from it, because everyone who's been playing the game for 5 years, even if they're relatively shit, they will know a lot about the game. So that's probably the biggest advice I will give you. One of the things I didn't do that much in my career, which I think may have costed me a little bit.
Well, man, that's it's pretty much what I had. There's still so much that I'd love to talk about, but unfortunately, we're just out of time. We didn't even touch on WCS systems. Oh my god!
Oh, we shouldn't, because I'll.
That's another hour tacked on there, right?
Yeah. Or more.
Well, it was a real cool experience talking to you, man. Hopefully, maybe in a year we run it back. But if there's anything that you wanted to shout out, anything that you wanted to say, now's your time.
Yeah. All right. So first of all, I want to apologize for my 30-minute rant on Queens. May have been a bit excessive. Second of all, I want to clarify that my retirement is not planned or anything yet. So anything can happen, and I'm. It's not like I'm in a bad mood or anything. I'm actually just making a decision for myself, and I'm actively gonna try to make it better at Valencia and Montreal, and maybe GSL against the world. So yeah, I hope you guys will keep supporting me as you always have. I always have a very lovely support crew. Mostly my girlfriend, and my mother, who always try to get me to keep playing, because they know secretly I really like to play StarCraft. And they also know I'm secretly really good at StarCraft, even though I don't always think so myself. And I want to thank, shout out to my Discord boys, all of them. I think it's a few hundred, so I'm not gonna take the time to single them out, but you know who you are. And yeah, thank you guys for everything, and I hope, secretly, I do hope that my career will last a little bit longer. And yeah, thank you guys for listening to the interview, and to you for having me.